All right. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Cory G. Thank you so much for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
I
What
want
we
to
got?
put,
What we got on tap today, Brad? What we got on tap?
I just want to say, I want to put this on record so everyone knows that um, we attempted to do this before and it didn't happen for whatever reason. That's irrelevant. The part of the story I want to share is the character piece. And the character piece is for those of you that either know Cory or don't know Cory, I don't know Cory from Adam. I only know him through social media and how he shows up on that platform. And obviously, anyone we look at on social media, we only know what they show us. But what Cory did last week when the podcast didn't work out for whatever reason was he got my personal number and gave me a call. So I just want to say to you listening and Cory to you, like that just showed so much character to me. You didn't have to do that. You're a busy guy, you've got multiple businesses, you've got a family. Um, so the fact that you did that to me just said so much about who you are at your core. And I just wanted everyone, before we got into the podcast, I wanted everyone to understand that you're just a real human and that showed that you cared. So I just want to hold space and say thank you for that so much.
Oh yeah. You know what? The funny thing is, Brad, is that it was on us, right? You did everything you were supposed to do, and all the shit that I preach all the time, being on our game, we was off of it that day. So I just wanted to call you and say, "Yo, that's on us. My bad." Like, but it is that real because at the end of the day, I try to keep myself at a high level execution. And we fell short that day. We were below the line. And so
Right.
I missed it. Kyle missed it. But at the end of the day, like, I just think that's what's right. And I do the same thing. Like, we mess up orders at Max Effort. I call the customer. They're always shocked, like, what?
Right.
You mean
Yeah.
it's Cory? I'm like, dude, sorry, we missed it, But at the end of the day, like, that's the kind of business that I run. Like, I want people to know that I do actually care and that these things are meaningful to me. And we're creating real impact with the content. And that the one person that I might have impacted that day because I was below the line, that's bullshit. And so I was hoping we'd get another opportunity, which obviously we do today. But I've just always operated that way, man. And I don't know. I think no matter how big you get, in theory, is like you need to act small. At the end of the day,
Mhm.
no one's bigger than anyone else. It's just like, yes, everyone's busy, but there's certain things that just are what they are, and I've always kind of stood by those things.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It just says a lot about you, like I said, from a character standpoint. I don't know if this is accurate or not, but I believe I read or I heard Cheech from Cheech and Chong say something along the lines of, in a paraphrasing, he said, always be nice to the valet. And what he meant by that was everyone you come in contact with, you don't know who that person's going to be 10 years down the line. And his point was that guy could be a producer on a movie that I'm trying to get on in 10 years from now, or he could be, wanting to marry my daughter or something along those lines. You just never know. And I just think it's important for us, meaning all of us, to, if we have it within our capacity to pick up the phone and make a phone call or just treat people with that respect that we want, it just goes such a long way. So again, I just want to highlight that, the fact that you did that. And I respect you from afar, again, only knowing so much, but that made me respect you even more. And I'm sure those clients that you have through Max Effort that might experience a hiccup here and there when they get that phone call from you, it just says so much about the brand and about the names behind the brand. So kudos to you and keeping that as like a true value for you.
Yeah, appreciate that, Brad. Thank you.
I actually want to start off with a question that I've been really dying to ask you. I think I know the answer to it, but perhaps my community doesn't. And it's a fitness related question. And the question is, if you could only take one movement to a desert island and exercise, what would it be and why? Again, I think I know the answer, but you go ahead.
Well, that's interesting. I think it's probably the front squat, actually.
Okay, not what I was expecting. So go on.
Yeah. And I think because there's so much that has to happen, and I've learned to love that. I used to hate it, right? But then when I started squatting every day like years ago, I started to really realize that that movement has so much power behind it, and there's so many components to mobility, lower back, upper back, strength in the legs, posture. I mean, it's just like I think if you're doing it with a clean grip, like an Olympic lifter,
Mhm.
I think I've seen bigger jumps in deadlifts in my crew when their front squats go up. I've seen big jumps in our back squat. I've seen big jumps in my actual jumping capabilities, my mobility, long pauses in the bottom. I think it creates like pretty strong mind. I think that you have to be mindful of core. Like, I think it's really like the more I've learned about programming, which is probably out of all the things that I think I do well, I think I probably do that. I'm the most curious about that. And I think that's how I
Mm,
kind of got here, honestly, when I break it all the way down. And so,
mhm,
what I've seen transition from powerlifting, myself, my athletes, people I've just worked with over the past, and myself, I think front squat. Although there's obviously an upper body component I would kind of miss if I didn't have any other exercise. But here's what I'll come back to: my grandfather, who was a really, really good, like, just lifter and just stayed active his whole life, played golf all the way into his 90s. He had two knee surgeries. And that's when he started to have a decreased, I guess, lifestyle. And he told me one day, he said, Cory, just remember this: don't lose your leg strength. He's
mhm,
like, I didn't understand when I got that second knee. He didn't really come back from it all the way.
mhm,
And he said that was the key. So not only his legs have something to do with your obviously natural testosterone and growth hormone and all that, but the quality of life, and which is why I'm so bullish on all the lunges and squats and all these
mm.
things. He said, don't lose the legs are a direct reflection of, I think, long term, just like lifestyle.
Yeah, I can't cite the actual study, but there's studies actually done on that in regards to looking at how the aging population, the majority of, I think it was people from 85 and older, the majority of, not the majority, the largest reason for them ending up either in bed or incapacitated or in the hospital was falling. And the author basically cited doing things like squats, lunges to keep that leg strength. So you not only had the strength to catch yourself, but also that speed and that agility. So yeah, I completely agree. Legs are so important. And I don't know who said it as well, but uh, I heard the quote ages ago, and it was legs feed the wolf,
Yeah.
meaning if a wolf's going to eat, he's got to have strong legs. So
Facts.
yeah, it's a
Go
great
front squat.
exercise.
Front squat would be the one.
Love it. Um, this this podcast for me really speaks to leaders and leadership, and I look at you as someone who's done so much when it comes to that in regards to leading others, probably at times leading yourself as well, which I think is an important thing for leaders to be able to do, which is lead ourselves, because at times no one's coming to save us and help us as we try to grow our businesses or do certain things. But I wanted to ask one more question before we got into that specifically. And I was lucky enough to sit down with Zach Avanesh a couple weeks ago and ask him the same thing. And I think you guys are similar, at least in my mind, just in regards to like good business minds, rooted in fitness. But there's also one other aspect that I really respect of your messaging, and it comes back to mindset a lot.
Yeah,
So if you what's that, sorry?
Zach's a homie. He's good people.
Yeah, he's such a fun guy, man, and he's been so generous to me with his time. So yeah, shout out to Zach Evanish. So if you had to start from scratch, Cory, if you had to like go back to you've got nothing, um, it's a complete clean slate. What's easier to build, a business, a body, or a mindset? And then the second to that question is, of those three for you, what's most important?
I don't know if so what's interesting about that question is I think they all parallel each other. They're
Yeah,
all
for sure.
equally as difficult.
Hmm.
So what I started to realize though, if I build them all simultaneously, I could be unstoppable.
Mm,
And that's where I think people maybe didn't realize that I was executing that for this entire time frame, right? So I read Education of a Bodybuilder when I was younger, which is one of Arnold's books, and it had a lot of mindset, sneaky amount of mindset stuff in it. And obviously, like, there was no internet whenever I was starting to learn all this stuff because I'll be 45 this year. So I was, kind of I transitioned well with the internet, but it wasn't really
right.
happening when I was a kid. And so I learned a lot about those mindset stuff like early with Arnold's kind of like just his visionary stuff. And so I picked up on a lot of that. And because, I grew up in humble beginnings, I had to do a lot of daydreaming on what was possible. I didn't know a personal trainer that grew up. Like, I didn't know anybody that had the job that I wanted. Like, I had never met anybody. So I think that one of the things was I started realizing that building a body was going to take consistency. Building a mind like I didn't have a traditional education, so I was going to be in charge of that too. So no one's actually teaching me. I'm going to have to go search out and find it. And then the reality is, like what I saw Arnold doing was he was building a business with the same consistency as he was with all this other stuff, because discipline just goes across all kind of verticals. And so then I just started literally adding and subtracting on daily habits and applying them to all of these things. And I would say probably like 10 or 12 years ago, I started really diving into where it's like an hour plus a day of personal development, maybe up to an hour and a half. Definitely, 2 hours in the gym. And then the rest of the day, and including in the morning, I'm building businesses. I've never had a job since I was a coal miner. That was the last W-2 job I had that wasn't my own company. So since 1999, I've been self-employed, you know what I mean? And I wasn't handed nothing. So I think the reality is not either of them are individually easier than the next. They all simultaneously building a mind, a body, and a business are extremely difficult. And that's where it comes back to like what Louis Simmons said, like average people give you average results and crazy motherfuckers give you crazy results. And I just realized that I'm going to have to do things that others aren't willing to do consistently for a really long period of time to get the result that I want, which is an extraordinary life, not an ordinary life. And I don't think I'm better than anyone else, but I think I'm just as good. And I think I'm willing to outwork, anybody basically because of what I want for this life. I mean, so it just, I don't know, man. I locked onto this a long time ago. I've operated like this for so long that it's very normal to me. It's very unnormal for most, I think, which is why more people want to interview me and talked about some of this crazy stuff. But to me, it just seems really elementary and I guess normal operation at this point.
How do you deal with naysayers, whether it be people that are close to you, like I call it my power circle. So let's say it's like your family or friends that you keep close that maybe don't believe or challenge what you are envisioning, or even people I know. I was watching your social media a couple weeks ago, and you would like post someone would like throw some shade, and then you would post a video of something else, like
People
basically,
love that.
yeah,
The TikTok
like
haters.
yeah. So how do you navigate that? And yeah, so how do you navigate your visionary mind, and that's what I'll call it, your goals? You said extraordinary life, you said unstoppable, like all these terms are things that I completely want to facilitate for myself and I believe in as well. But then there's people around us, I'm assuming you as well, that want to, almost like the crab in the bucket analogy, where they just want to pull you down. So do you completely divorce yourself from those people? Is that an education thing where you're having conversations with them? Where do you stand with that when it comes to naysayers? How do you navigate that?
I don't have any in my immediate circle. Zero. Haven't for a long time. You don't fucking make it with me if you're like that. It just doesn't work, man. My squad is super legit, super small, real killers, straight up. And so I've never had, honestly, I don't think my family could even identify with what I was trying to do. So they weren't hating on it because they didn't know they didn't really like. It's weird. I always say that whenever I kind of set out to do these things, they weren't saying, "Oh, you couldn't do it." They were like almost like, "Well, shit. I mean, we're already at the bottom, so like what everything's up from here." You know what I mean? So I didn't really have anybody pulling me back. I just needed a chance, bro. I just needed a chance to get a job to make enough money to get the hell out so I could really get it figured out. And I had some like naysayers really early, but I would say that that was needed because right when I was 20, the guy who used to run the club I was at before I opened my first gym, he kind of sat down and was like, told me like this person couldn't do it, that person couldn't do it. Why do you think you could do it? And I was just like, bro, whoever you just mentioned, they ain't me. You don't know what I got in here. And so I think some of that stuff was necessary. At the end of the day, I think, I've like laser tight my crew years ago. And if you if you think like that, I'm going to wear you out anyway. So that's part of it. I think that people that have been like that around me, they don't last very long, because there's levels of this push, right? It's not always boom, 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 but it might be like a big wave, and
Mhm.
then it might be like, let's sift through this, and then it chills for a while, and then it's another big wave. And I'm real like, I operate more like a creative, um not really like an operations guy. That's definitely not me. I'm organized in my own way about certain things, but I just go on how things rock, and I've always been that way. So I have great people around me that believe and support. But yeah, I don't have any. Here's what's funny is when I do say outlandish shit to people, I like to look in their eyes and I could tell whether they believe me or not. That shit kind of motivates me, but that's just for fun because at the end of the day, I've proved so many people wrong or proved myself right so many times, dude, that no one really is surprised when I do shit anymore. I will chirp the guys in the office like fucking around, like, yo, I'm getting hot again. I'm about to be on the Beverly Hills Housewives show. Like, watch out. Like I fuck around with stuff like that. But it's all in good fun, and people start to see things happen in my life. And I've been a daydreamer forever, bro. Like a lot of my dreams have come true, but I see things in my head way before they happen. Uh how I want to operate, things I want for myself, things I want for our company, my family. I've always been like a daydreamer, but it's also like a form of visualization, you know.
Right. Talk to me about your tattoo on your arm.
Well, we got a bunch of them, or they're
Yeah,
more and more.
talk to me about the quote, the one that really resonates. I think with it kind of
Oh
speaks to
yeah,
what you were just talking about.
yeah. To believe in things you can see and touch is no belief at all, but to believe in the unseen is a triumph and a blessing, which is from Abraham Lincoln. It's faith, man. Like I believe I can see it, but I can't touch it. No one else can see it. It's not reality yet, but to believe that it's going to become reality, that I'm going to put action around it, that I'm going to put chances around it, that I'm going to put work around it, ideas, it's like things that have come true in my life that I saw for years, and it's wild when it happens, but also I'm not really surprised when it does. So a lot of people will be like, "Oh, can you believe that this?" I'm like, I was hoping it was going to, but no, I do believe it because I believe I'm that guy because I worked for it, and I don't think I'm. Here's the thing: is when you think you're entitled to it, it usually scoots by. Like it
Mhm.
won't, it's not there. I don't really think I'm entitled to anything, but I just want to give myself the best possible chance at it. So if I'm in the room and I got the opportunity, I want to be prepared. If I'm available for something to put myself in that situation, I want to be prepared, and discipline and the preparation and the morning stuff and all the development like that, that puts me in those spots to get a chance to be. I always say, I want a chance to be great. I'm not
Mm,
guaranteed any of it.
I love that. Where did you see that quote first, and did it hit you like a ton of bricks when you first read it?
Ton of bricks because I can clearly see myself when I read that quote. The first thing that comes to mind is me sitting in that trailer thinking this ain't for me.
Mm,
Just thinking this ain't for me. A couple things ain't for me. Not liking my job, feeling like I'm stuck, not for me. This lifestyle, living check to check, not for me. I'm meant to do great things. I don't know where that came from, but that's shit that I used to think about.
yeah, that's powerful, man. Let's talk about business for a second, and the fact that like you do have a team around you, you do have people that help you facilitate bringing these visions to reality. As a leader, what kind of grade do you give yourself? Let's talk about out of 10. As a leader, where are you at on a scale of 10's like the ultimate leader? He or she, pulls the best out of their team and they create amazing results. One being like dog's breakfast, no good. Um, where are you at as a leader? And then second question to that is, what are you doing, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, to become a better leader?
Yeah, I'm probably somewhere between like a 7 and an 8, I would say. And
Okay.
I'll tell you why, because my environment's completely different than most. So we have almost like a startup creative environment,
Hmm.
but everybody I work with also has their own freelance stuff too. So it's not really like only employee type stuff. I don't really look at anybody like an employee. It's like a bunch of young entrepreneurs inside of this, kind of situation we got where we're running an app and a max effort and multiple podcasts, and there's a lot going on here. So,
Mhm.
and a lot of people have their own side projects on top of it. I don't really like micromanaging because the reality is, by the way that I operate, I need people to do their jobs and with their skill sets based around my skill set, and I can't have them sitting on their hands, right? So it's like I would rather let somebody just do what they do. If I need to tweak something at the end, I will. But I believe in them so much because a lot of these dudes have been working with me for a while. They started when they were young, and they became straight killers, and they made it through all the craziness. And so, I'm not a good micromanager. I like for people to just like be self starters. And so maybe at points I could direct people better, but also like I like to see what people bring on their own. So now these guys are good enough where they'll be like, yo, G, I need this to do their job better. They need this from me. And I think we have that relationship. Like a great example on the way in, my editor, Danny, who does all the stuff for Max Effort in the app, like anything that's email marketing on the back end of the site, all the editorial stuff with all the content, like he's working on something for me and he's like, yo, I need these bullet points. I need that. So I literally did a video on the way in to do this podcast because I got to do some stuff for family after this, send it to him so he can get started on that, so he can get it going. And then I can come back on the backside and say, all right, well, no, we need to go this, this, and this. So I think the guys are, look, there's a lot of agility when you work with me. There's a lifestyle component that I think is really important. Like we have, look, if I need the whole fucking squad here Sunday morning, they'll be here, but they might not hear from me all weekend either if we don't need to be. Because I've learned like I want to have that balance of I want to have fun at work, I want to get through it, I want to build something great. But also most of these guys now are having kids and are wifed up and stuff, and that shit is important too. And I think there's a balance of where you can build wealth, build a business, have fun, like what you do, but also have a life, man. And so I'm trying to like teach that, but also be aggressive in our businesses. It's a hard balance. I don't even know if balance, I would say it's like integration is really more
Mhm.
what it is. But I would say, yeah, 7 to 8. Like, I don't really think I was meant to, I think I was meant to inspire and motivate a lot of people, bro. I don't know if I was meant to manage some huge business. That's not really my jam. I can barely damn near manage myself. Like, and I like I said, I just know who I am, and that's not me. Like I think at MP we had like maybe 75 employees at one point, and that does not excite me. Like I didn't know most of the people in the sales meetings. I didn't live at the corporate office. I was more remote. Like I just not. I probably look more like a solo entrepreneur. I think becomes is this new like term or whatever. That's probably more me if I have to really. So like managing a bunch of people is not really my thing. I think I was more meant to inspire a lot of people, honestly.
Yeah, I think that's part of what a leader does anyway. I mean, labels are for soup cans kind of thing. Like you call it whatever you want, but I think a real leader does inspire.
Yeah.
It's not about micromanaging. I don't think you need to have an office of 75 people where Monday to Friday from 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 they're going to be there and they look to me as the boss, so I'm the leader. I think when I hear leader, I think a few things come to my mind, and inspiration is one of them. Regardless of like the org chart, I think that's
Yeah.
irrelevant. I
What
think I Go ahead, sorry.
So one of the things I really enjoy as these younger dudes have come up kind of in the system is like when they hit certain life things, whether it's like purchasing their first house or their first amount of money, X amount of dollars they make, their first investment hit. I look more of like the things that I didn't do early enough in my career. I want them to do earlier. The things that I'm going through, I'm very transparent, whether it's money, it's time, it's mistakes, so they don't have to replay it, or when they run into it, they don't know how to operate with it. Um, this business that we started in like 16, it's been really transparent from a standpoint of like ups and downs and the way I've structured things and explaining like, hey, this is how probably most people would do it. This is how I'm going to do it with, the hopefully the with the team in mind. And I think really trying to explain like my concepts of business so they truly are learning seven-figure business type stuff on the job. So I think I take a lot of pride in that development of like killers, bro. Like I've told everybody that stuck it out with me, like this is how it is. Like it needs to be fucking quality. It needs to be quick. We need to be able to move. You got to be able to be on camera. You got to be, you got to build your own confidence. You got to develop yourself. The gym's a part of it. Like there's a lifestyle here But because of those things, if you can ride, I think there's something out there. Like all of these guys have got chances to work with high performing people and people in my network, which is now their network. And if you can stay in the game with me, man, there's a lot here if you're about it. And that's what I've continued to preach. And it seems like it keeps coming true.
I love it. I feel like, and feel free to jump in here, but I don't know if this was like a vision that you had amongst others that you've had in the past, but it's almost like you set yourself up to really leverage the way I'll use the term economy is set up, at least here in North America, where people are kind of doing away with the antiquated way of doing businesses. And they're looking at, hey, can I subcontract this person, or can I bring in this person on a part-time basis and get experts to come in, and you don't have to be married to them for any long period of time or have to deal with any of the headaches that, HR, et cetera, et cetera. Do you feel like you saw this coming, this ability to be more flexible in how the business was going to lay out, or was this just like you were going day by day and it just kind of happened? Or was this something you thought, hey, this could be an opportunity for me to kind of flip the script on how, quote unquote, a seven-figure business is created and run?
I think that it always is based on how I want to operate. Like, how do I want to like have my perfect day?
Right.
How do I want to operate? And then can I find the people that are similar minded that want to operate, like have more agility? I just think that the big thing is like, can I help develop killers at the same time as they get to learn? And then I can guarantee them X amount to take
Mhm.
care of the business stuff. But if they have stuff over top of that, I don't even care. Like, as long as my shit is done, which sometimes takes more time and sometimes takes less time. It just kind of really depends on what's going on. I just had this like understanding that I do think we need to be in the same area for periods of time. Like, I never used to think that, but I'm more bullish on that. But also, we work half day Fridays. I mean, we literally are in the office 4.5 days. And to me, that was like almost like I want to get to where we have 3 day weekends all the time. If we could do it, I would do it. Right. And I think eventually maybe we'll get there. But it was more like, can we be super efficient, like the people we work with, have fun, everybody develop, all ships are kind of rising at the same time. And it was really like, once again, in my mind, how do you want to operate, G? Because it's really as you know, there's no like real endpoint. I think I
Mhm.
started to realize that like I just love what I do, so I'm in no rush to get out of it, but let me create the best possible environment. I bought this building a couple years ago. The first 5,000 square feet is the gym, which is invite only. The back 10,000 square feet is the warehouse, the studio, the we're building some other stuff. Like it's just like we got our own like fantasy factory, basically, of fitness and podcasting, and it's 10 minutes from my house, bro. Like at the end of the day, like I was just trying to create over all these 20 years of business, trying to create this kind of environment to where we could do this for the duration and just have fun.
That's awesome. As you were describing that, man, I viscerally felt happy and I smiled. I wasn't even thinking about it. I found myself smiling as you were describing that. And I'd love for you to shed some light on this. So my Monday to Friday has me sitting down with businesses and leadership groups, and I'm helping them facilitate growth within their businesses. And when I leave those meetings, when I'm walking to my vehicle, I could like I could run through a wall. I just feel incredible. And I almost start laughing a bit at I'm just this kid from this small town in Canada who was bold enough to say, this is what I do, and I'm one of the best at it. So you should pay me to do it. And I'm leaving these meetings and I'm having impact with these people. And I have this realization like, Brad, you're doing it. And I almost get a little bit like giddy and excited. So when you're describing what you've built, and you've built, multiple businesses, and now the one that you're enjoying right now with your team, when you're alone or when you're unlocking the door or turning on the lights or turning off the lights, do you ever have those moments where it's like the young Cory inside of you is just like, elated?
Oh yeah, almost every day when I come home, I can't believe it worked. I literally, there's a couple things that never get old. One is coming into your own gym and throwing your keys on the desk, which now is a set of jerk blocks, but it's like come in every day, throw my keys down, and know that this is, me and Dustin own it together. It's like, my high school friend I lifted weights with. Like it's unbelievable the story that we've created for ourselves, and it's not been easy by no means. But if you asked me to sign up for it again, I would do it in a heartbeat. Like, it was harder than I expected. I've grown a ton, and I started to understand. And I think a lot of like when I studied like the Carnegie and Napoleon Hill stuff, it really helped me because I started to understand how the world actually works, like things you have to execute, things you're going to go through. I started to understand. I read a book called How to Raise Your Own Salary by Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie, and it was really a blueprint for the way I operate. It's kind of like my business Bible, I guess you could say. I started using those like kind of understandings like a long time ago, and so when I'm up against things, I know the shitty stuff's only going to last so long, and I know the great stuff's only going to last so long. I know when you go through the fucking shitstorm, there's a blessing on the other side. And the other side, when the blessing's there, you got to enjoy it because you don't know how long it's going to last for. So I think that, and over delivery is one of the big ones, going the extra mile, that chapter, which I attempted to do when I called you. I answer every direct message like somebody's walking in my gym. I've always been that way. So there's some certain principles I've leaned on that have tended to be very true, that have helped contribute. And I think that once again, if I don't go through that self kind of education, I'm probably not here, man. Like, cause it takes all of that. That's when people ask me about starting their own business. Real cool to be an entrepreneur now, but like back in the day, like people were like, wait a minute, you're going to community college, you want to start your own business. And what are you trying to do? Like, you're a fucking loser, basically, is the way people used to look at me. And then they're like, oh, a fictitious job where you work out with people. Like, so it was interesting in the beginning for me. It definitely wasn't as glamorous as it is now. And that's why I kind of laugh. Cause I'm like, most of the things that I've been through, Brad, people would never be able to go sleep at night. They would never fucking make it. And I know I'm built different because I was able to get through those things, but it's only because of the discipline, the habits, development. And so like when people really challenge me, I just know what I'm willing to do, man, because I done been in the fire so many times. And there might be a day where I'm not willing to go through it anymore.
Mhm.
But every time those things come up, I sign back up for it again. So this is, it's an interesting life, man, but I really feel like my life is mine. And that takes a lot of fucking work and perseverance, but it's very gratifying.
Yeah, absolutely. That resonates with me a ton. Last week, we our daughter had to go to an appointment. She's 4 years old, and it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And just for a moment, as I was walking into the building with her, it just hit me that it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My wife has her own business. I have my own business, and because of the work that we've done, we're able to do that. I didn't have to ask anybody. My wife didn't have to book any time off. And to your point, and I'm not at the level that you're at yet. Um, but there are moments where it's like it's ugly. And there's moments where I tell myself, like, what am I doing? Like, just go get a job. It's so much easier, you know? But that just wouldn't sit well with me. And it sounds like the same for you. It's just it's almost like the idea of that is the antithesis of joy and happiness. But it's through the hard work that you can have that freedom. And I think you just said like own your own life, which is, I mean, what's more valuable than that?
Well, I think I always try to think about like things that I wanted to change when I was a kid, right? And that's where all this comes from. Like my parents couldn't make it to all my games. My dad was always at work.
Mhm.
No one ever talked about investing. He actually had a gambling problem, which caused a ton of problems in our life. My mom was always struggling check to check. Like there was just so many issues that I was like, I am not going to continue this whole situation. And I think that I've said this before, like, I think I was fed up because by their generation, they were so fed up. Like it was almost like it had spilled over by the time it got to me. And I don't know if it was personality driven or whatever it was, but I finally was just like, enough of this, all of it. Right. And it's changed everything. Like I never thought it would probably change my parents as much as it did. My dad passed away years ago, but my mom and my stepdad are doing really well investing. And my mom does all the customer service for my app. Her highest paying job is working for the fitness app for customer service, which is unbelievable. Like when I left home in 98, Brad, if I could have said, Mom, I'm leaving here right now. I'm packing up to go be a personal trainer in the big city of Columbus, Ohio. In 15 years or however long it was, you're going to actually run and help my online app business of me teaching people how to work out all over the world. That's going to be your highest paying job of your life. I mean, dude, like
She
if you
would have
say it out
she would
loud,
have
we'd have
spit
been
out
like,
yeah, she would have spit out her coffee. You would have been laughing at yourself. I
yeah,
mean,
it
none of
sounds ridiculous.
well,
I mean,
back then it was written. What are you talking about an app? What are you talking about coach people all over the world? Like what have you done? Who are you? Like all these things, right?
correct. And so it's funny when you think back, but yeah, it's wild how my life has changed so much, but also the main components are still so important. Like no matter how much money I make or people I get to work with or things that are happening, I care what my deadlift felt like today. I care what my pump was like. I care about the program. Like I care that the message I got on the way back from the gym of somebody losing 4 or 5 pounds. Like none of that stuff's ever changed. Like I'm a fucking weightlifter, bro. I just get a chance to get paid for it, and it's looked different all these years. But lift weights get paid has always been my kind of, my deal. And so the main thing's still the main thing, bro. It might have some Gucci on or some Rolex shit on the side of it from time to time, but the main thing's still the main thing. And that I don't know if that'll ever change for me. And if it does, then maybe that's when I'm kind of done. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's paid dividends now, so I say keep it up.
Yeah.
A while ago, I hired a coach, like a life mindset business coach, and one of the best decisions I ever made. And he asked me within the first 48 hours of us being engaged to each other in this like coach client relationship, he said, "What's your purpose? Why are you here?"
Mhm.
And in the moment, I couldn't answer it. I'd never been asked a question like that before, and it forced me to actually sit down, like pen and paper, and reflect. I don't need you to drop like some amazing soundbite right now, but are you in touch with your purpose? Do you know what it is? And what is it? Share it with me and us.
Yeah. So chapter one of how to raise your own salaries, definitive purpose. Definitive purpose. Like an aimless person will just wander. You have to know where you're going, right?
Mm,
And so I knew from age 15 probably is about when it started clicking that what I was going to accomplish was going to change all of it. Like all of it. And that somebody had to like basically be the one willing to do it, and that was going to be me. And once again, I think it just comes out of like almost despair and the struggle and all the stress I watched my mom go through. I was like, fuck all this. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to do it, but this shit is about to be different when I'm done with this thing. And so then once I started reading some of that stuff and started understanding, that's probably what was driving me, right? Because that was my why, definitive purpose,
mm,
driving purpose. Like that was it. But I hadn't really formulated it. And then once I started getting a little older, probably like early 20s, I was like, what I'm going to do in this life is going to change generations of my family. Like straight up. And it's going to take my whole life. And so I knew I was signing up to carry the load, shield the 1,000-pound gorilla, whatever. It was going to be a heavy load, man. But I think I was built for it. And so I think the multiple generations of coal miners and all the fucking hard work they put in and the stuff I got to learn there, I just applied it to something I love to do. And then I'm relentless with it. And I think that I realized that if I do this thing at a level that, maybe I didn't even realize was possible, that no one will ever be the same. And when I first moved to Columbus, I was around some families that were multi-generational wealthy, and I watched the way they operate. Like not a lot, but I was around them just enough to see like, okay, this is just normal investing in this and real estate. And like, this is just how they operate. They teach it, they pass it down. And I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the uncle that gives stock to the nieces and nephews. I want to be the one that teaches, the guys that are around me how to build wealth. I want to be the optimistic one that also tells you that you got to work. I want to be the one that gets my kids involved in investing when they're younger, and my mom, and like, and understand that everything around me has changed because of just understanding all that stuff. And then my parents, like when my mom working with me allowed my stepdad to retire from the coal mine early. He worked 40 years underground. When they were done, we took his 401 and went to my financial guy and rebuilt everything. And they've just done awesome ever since then, and like set up with their whole thing. And then, my kids I have my mom and my youngest son text me on the same day about investing in stock. He was 9 and she was probably 50 something, 60 something. Like, so it has changed on both sides, and now it will continue from that. So it is already different. And it wasn't no exact number on it. Like, there wasn't a certain money number. It was just like the wave of events that I think I can create from being this intentional will change, our last name and kind of how we operate. And that's what's happened and will continue to happen, I think.
As you were describing that, what I was hearing was just like that's the like the quintessential leader, what you're doing. You're fully embracing and embodying like what you feel your purpose is, and then you're facilitating that growth for people around you. You're not doing everything for everyone, but you're shining a light on like, hey, if we do this, look what we can do. Like, hey guys, I know generally in the past as a family we've turned left, but I really think we should turn right, and here's the person we need to talk to, and let's entrust this person and make this move. That to me is leadership. And I know the question I posed earlier was more about your business side of things and that leadership, but it sounds like you're really embodying, obviously you're a dad and you're a partner, and there's a leadership quality to that role, I think, that's just innate. But it sounds like you've taken this leadership role within your family, which is such a beautiful thing.
100%. Yeah. Definitive purpose was it's different when Corey G's done. And it is already, and it will be. You know, part of me is that scared kid that never wants to live in a trailer again, right? And doesn't want to go check the check. So that will always scare me enough to keep active and stay busy. And, it goes in waves, man. It's like, I always think like above the line, below the line, like behavior and discipline. And like, I'm always going to stay at the line or mildly above. If I fall below, it probably my below the line expectation is probably much more higher performing than most people's. But the reality is, like, I expect a lot out of myself. And I continually am trying to push and see what's next and develop myself. And I think through that process, I've been able to impact a lot of people along the way because, dude, our financial IQ in my family was terrible. Like, the understanding of money and the understanding of what's possible, the lifestyle, it just wasn't for me, bro. Like, I just could not just submit to this is how it is. And I think there's a lot of people like that, but it's scary. It's easier to stay the same. It's easy to stay the same. It's
Yeah,
hard to
it's like,
it's hard to change it.
yeah, it's like I work not to pass judgment, but I hear people around me like when it's winter, it's too cold. When it's summer, it's too hot. When the gas prices are up, gas is too expensive. And they're just like having these conversations that I just find completely boring. And it reminds me of a Kobe Bryant quote, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it was something along the lines of, I just don't understand lazy people. They just don't speak my language. Like I just don't understand what they're talking about. Does that come up for you where whether it's in the gym or in business, people are coming up, whether it's be excuses or, and some of them might be appropriate. I don't know people's realities, but do you quickly filter that out and be like, oh, this person just doesn't have what it takes to be that next level? Like, or do you have empathy
Yeah,
or
I try not to like prejudge because I think
yeah,
one thing Coach Deegan said, I'm on a podcast that's called the Coach's Clinic with a really good baseball coach named Mike Deegan, and he said, just because somebody's labeled soft, like let's say you get a kid you're working with and he's kind of like on the softer side, right? And I think everybody knows what that kind of means, but that's not a lifetime label that you can work out of that. So I try to think of like maybe if this person feels that way to me, it might be because they've never been exposed to what it really takes. I think that when you can look under the hood sometimes, then they will say this is for me or isn't for me. This lifestyle, that type of training, things that we do all kind of extreme, right? It's not for everybody. And I understand that. Like, not everybody's meant to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody's meant to shield the stress like I have or go through this crazy shit. Like, it's not for everybody. So I used to think it was, but that was because I was just naive or just didn't understand. And so I never judge anybody on this or that. Now, if they're coming to me saying they want to be that person, then I'll be a little bit more bullish and say, yo, like this type of operation isn't going to yield the person that you think. This is what it really takes. And I think that that's something that maybe people don't understand or need to get around. So I always tell people they want to own their own business. You need to get around somebody that in your local area, in your regional area, that really, operates that way. And Coach Ryan from Ohio State, the wrestling coach, Tom Ryan, he said, somebody should be able to follow you around each day and know exactly, and they should be able to know what your goals are. If they followed you around,
Mm.
would they know your goals? Would they know you want to be successful? What could they pick out what you're trying to do if they just followed you around? And that's kind of replayed in my head a lot. Like, am I really operating most of the time towards if somebody just followed me around, if they could feel out what I'm about? And I would think that most of the time it's yes.
Yeah, I think the idea of if we hired a film crew to, record us, are we showing up the way that we want to show up? You know what I mean? If we played it back.
Yeah, not everyone is 100%. Like,
Oh
great
yeah.
example of the day we missed the podcast, like, but the reality is if there's going to be things that fall through the cracks when you kind of operate like this from time to time. And I always just go, well, okay, just keep it moving, try to make it better, keep it rolling. Like, I don't really, if I mess stuff up, some things are big mess ups with lots of zeros, some things are not. But the reality is I try to own up to it and just keep it moving. Yo, my bad. This is how we're going to fix it. Hopefully we don't replay it. I think the big thing about mistakes is like not redoing them. Like, I'm cool if guys mess up as long as it don't cost me too much money, but then it's like, let's just not redo that.
Yeah,
Like,
I heard this the other day, and I
learn
think it's so true. The guy said, he said, it's not a mistake unless it happens again.
I
And
agree.
I was like, what a brilliant. And he was a CEO. I think he was like an ex-CEO of Ford or Boeing. And I just thought, like, what an incredible paradigm for a leader to have, and to then like let that bleed into the culture of, whether it be a family or a business. There's a sense of like, hey, mistakes happen. Let's learn from them and let's move on. And it
Dude,
is
I
a
make
mistake. Go ahead,
tons of
sorry.
mistakes. Everyone does. And
Yeah,
you just can't, you have to learn from them. So if we're replaying the same one, then we're just wasting time and money.
right.
That shit will piss me off. Like, I'll fly off the handle. But if you're like, you mess up and you're like, my bad, like, we'll just, adjust, like, yeah, cool. I mean, I'll do the same shit. No one's perfect, bro. Like, I realize and that, and like I said, I like self starters. Like, we'll figure out V1 is always V1, no matter how much you overthink it. You got
Right.
to get the shit going. Like, a lot of shit I started, like, it didn't look great at first, but it'll eventually be great if we keep working on it. Like, I'm just not super worried that it's not going to be right because I already know it's not going to be right all the way. So, like, I don't have this. I'm not an overcritical, probably sometimes to a fault. I don't overanalyze things. I just like to get things going, and I believe I'll come up with solutions on the fly. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing. I think it's been more a good thing than a not good thing in my life. But there's definitely been times like, oh, probably should have went over that a few more times before I launched it out there. But that's part of just how I operate. So I know that about myself.
Yeah, it's like the idea of if your first version is perfect, you waited too long. It's like it's
I
supposed to
think
be messy, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And I think it's less about is it perfect? It's more about, am I willing to work towards that idea of perfect? And perfect is like what you're saying earlier. There's no finish line to any of this stuff. There is no perfect. There's no perfect deadlift. I would argue there's no perfect supplement. There's no perfect like it just doesn't exist. But it's the people or the team or the person behind it that's looking to achieve, that's gonna allow them to at least get as close as they possibly can be to producing that thing. And that to me is where like the beauty is, and the separator is because most people aren't willing to hang on long enough to see how close they can get to it.
I'm
But
involved, bro. Like, people got to be willing to put the time in, and I started as I got a little older. I started to realize that's part of it, right? My habits and my dedication and the team that I got, like, I already know it's a bunch of killers. Like, it's time involved now. If we keep executing, keep coming up with ideas, keep trying things, like, we're gonna win the long game. At the end of the day, like, It's like, I know how good and potentially great some of the stuff is that's happening around me and these businesses. Like, it's just time involved. Like, just need more people to know about it. And if we keep impacting people, keep being on things and getting results, and it just keep at the end of the day, I'm just doing the same stuff I've been doing for all these years. Because they keep working. That's why people are like, why you've got enough money? Why are you still getting up at this time? Why are you eating like this? Like, why would I change it if it's yielding the result that I've always dreamed of? Like, oh,
Right.
now I should put it on pause? Like, get the fuck out of here.
I think what when you say that, what comes up for me is like you've figured out a math equation that just generally equates to the outcome that you want. So just keep repeating that math equation. And I think for a lot of us, the equation that you've discovered, whether it be your mindset or your business or your body, if the majority of society around the globe adopted pieces of that math equation, they would likely get the results that they're looking for. But
100%.
a lot of us and myself at times as well, we just like, you are tired, or there are, the kids didn't sleep last night, or whatever the, laundry list may be. But when you're able to get back on that horse and go back to what you said earlier about have an intention, have a purpose, and just get back and just plug the I sucked at math growing up, but that there's a certain equation that I understand. And I understand if I keep doing this, which means I keep trying and I don't get distracted and I put in the effort and I'm honest and I'm authentic and I'm vulnerable, it's probably going to end up in a win for me in some way, shape, or form.
All of that, what you just said. The other thing is that the process is not super exciting a lot. And I think that I don't really care about that a whole bunch. And I think that might be part of it. Like, once I started realizing that it's the cumulative amount of the process is what is going to build up to these, lifetime achievements or goals that I have set out for myself. And I think I realized that with my body first, never taking drugs, always being drug free. I knew it was going to take a long time, being like a science project with supplements and diet with Dr. Serrano and Mario Di Pasquale and all these training guys I learned from. And it's like, I started to realize like all these things take time. So business is no different. Mindset is no different. It's cumulative. Life is just a bunch of decisions and habits piled on top of each other, bro. And over time, if you pile enough good ones on or you pile enough bad ones on, that's your yielded result. And so to me, it was like, okay, I'm getting one result and this is the work it's really taking. Am I willing to keep signing up for this? And the answer right now is yes. And then I'm going to add and subtract things over time. But the reality is, the people that got on board or have got on board, whether it's virtually or in person, they have seen their life be enriched by dealing with my crazy ass. And it's only crazy because it's outlier from most of the other population. But I would argue that the other way is crazy, because if you know you could have these things, whether it's health, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's money, whether it's freedom, why would you not go through what it takes to do it? So to me, it's like I'm in an opposites world. To me, this makes a ton of sense. The other way makes zero sense. So I try to like filter that when I talk, because I sound like a nut job when I'm talking to somebody that's on the other side of it, right? So I'm always the person that downplays it and tries to not even really talk about fitness. Like, when I'm in general talk, I'll just try to talk about sports or something, because people always feel like they got to bring up their food to me or why they didn't train. Like, I try to divert it, because whatever I'm going to say is probably going to make them feel shitty or sound half nuts. But I've just I've adopted these type of principles and they just keep working. And it's also my job, man. Like, I tell my friends that are lawyers, like, I couldn't go do your job. Like, you shouldn't expect to be able to do mine at this level. You know what I mean? Like, this is most people's hobby, but it's not my hobby. That's the difference. I try to remind that to people when they're like, well, my friend at work said do this. Well, fuck, well, your friend at work don't do what I do. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think that's sometimes a little bit messed up too, because most workout is most people's hobbies, but it has never been my hobby. It's always been my job and my hobby.
Yeah, I mean, you're a walking billboard for your business, and you have been for years, especially now with max effort. Like, if you were, I don't know how tall you are. How tall are you?
Like 5'11".
Yeah, if you're like 5'11", 260, just like a mess, it'd be probably
Yeah.
pretty tough for you to be an authority figure and people want to get behind you. And if you're saying I get up and train at 4 a.m. and I look like this, it'd be a tough sell, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think that discipline is displayed as soon as you walk out the door. And people, I don't expect people to be like ready to get on stage, but there's a level of discipline that you're displaying by the way you look, the way you keep yourself up. Like, once again, like, I'm really just worried about what I got going on and what my crew's got going on. People think I automatically judge them because this is what I do. They're choosing that themselves. Now, if they want help, then I'm gonna lend that hand. But the reality is, like, I'm concerned about my family and the people that are around me and the people that have reached out to me that are involved in these businesses or that want help. I will bend over backwards to make that happen. But I'm not the one that's like going. Honestly, even if I'm in some random gym, which doesn't happen very often, and somebody's doing shit wrong, I don't even ever say anything. Like, I'm not that guy. But if you want to know what it takes, then I'll explain it to you.
Yeah, I'll admit it takes so I did 7-ish years in the CrossFit world, like, years and years ago, and did some coaching in there, and I do find it challenging just because I also wanna I innately just wanna help people, it's just within
Huh.
me. If I see someone deadlifting with a really rounded back and, they've got way too much weight on there, and it's just I part of me's just like, I wanna save their I wanna save their lower back,
No,
but I also understand that maybe that's part of their process is they need to learn that they shouldn't be doing that, and hopefully they don't, slip a disc and can't walk for 6 weeks, but, yeah, when I see someone doing something silly, uh, I don't judge them at all, actually, in my mind, I'm like, "Ah, I wish they would look at me and say, like, 'Hey, am I doing this right?'"
yeah.
And again, I'm not walking around like an Adonis 365, but I know enough to say like, "Hey, if you wanna do it safely, perhaps do it this way." But again, that's not why they're there. They're not there to get advice from Brad, so I just keep it to myself.
You got it.
And as you were talking about, like, your routine, and I do wanna quickly, and I wanna respect your time, but I do wanna quickly just, talk about your morning routine and how I personally I'm getting up at 4:01 in the morning. I'm not going to the gym. I'm going out for a walk or a run. And I won't say names, but certain people in my family say that's just not normal.
It's
And
not.
this is the quote that always comes to my mind, and it is, um, "What's normal for the spider is chaos for the fly."
Mm,
And it just always stays with me. Just it's like, yeah, that's not normal for you. For me, it's completely normal, right?
absolutely.
So I know your morning routine again from what I've only seen online, but share with my listeners uh, what the first few hours of your morning looks like and sets you up for the rest of your day.
Yeah, so my alarm goes off at 3:20. I like to get up. I only live, like I said, 10 or 15 minutes from the gym, so it's pretty close. I just like to get up, get my supplements in, get my aminos, get my water. Sometimes I'll check because we do business obviously all over the world, so I'll check numbers and stuff like that. But I don't really do any work before the gym because, and a lot of times I don't check social media. I don't want anything other than to lift weights. Like, that's my favorite thing to do. That's what I'm about. I have a competitive environment with my 4 a.m. crew, which is our drug-free powerlifting and bodybuilding team. So there's between 10 and 20 people at the gym when I get there every morning. Obviously, it's like an invite-only thing, so it's like guys are serious, right? So I'm coming to compete. I mean, at the end of the day, I've been a little banged up lately, but I'm coming back into where, like, I'm coming here to win fucking deadlift, or at least place in the top, whatever. And so, like, when I'm getting here, like, that's all I'm really thinking about. I got a bunch of other shit to worry about later, but I earn, like, that early morning call time at 4 a.m., which is when we start. Like, there's nothing else going on. So nothing's pulling on me unless I'm engaging in it. So it's like my family's sleeping, work is pretty much quiet unless I'm trying to drum it up. Like, I just have to worry about lifting weights. But at that time, we have Trayvon Diaz here. So he's capturing the 4 a.m. stuff, which then goes on the app, goes through Danny and is on the app by like 9 a.m. So it's like that's part of the process of the business too, is the group training in the morning and capturing all that content. And the programming is what a lot of people on the internet follow, because, like, we're on Get Stacked 105, which is 105 months of Get Stacked plan. Like, I'll be programming the 106 back to the consistency. Like, people could sign up for the app for $15, and then there's 105 months of the workout that we've done in the morning. It's a wild amount of content at this point, to be honest. Not to mention thousands of articles, whatever. There's tons of shit on there. And so it's like, you know, now at this point I'm done by 5:30 or so. So I'm lifting and competing and getting after it for an hour and a half or so. Music blaring, no one's in their headphones. Like it's called old school gym. So it's an old style kind of scenario, right? Loud music, rap music, fucking competition, guys getting ready for meets, whatever. And then I do my conditioning piece right after. For years and years, I'd go to the track and lunge a half mile after my lifting. Right now, I've actually kind of went back towards like some traditional cardio. I'm doing walking on an incline at 12% for 45 minutes. I'll do 5 minutes of dead mill for my knees and then jump rope for 5 minutes. So about an hour of conditioning. But the whole time I'm listening to an audiobook. Right now I'm listening to Outlive, which is a new book about like longevity. Sometimes I study business. Sometimes I'm listening to podcasts, but I'm getting an hour minimally of development. So now you're talking it's 6:30, quarter to 7. I've been up. I've trained for an hour and a half. I've done conditioning. I've got a book in 7 a.m. I've already, done quite a lot. And then it's like I'm ready to start my day. So if I
Nice.
get home, I kind of see like what's going on with my family. They're getting ready to go to school. And then, I'm back at the office between 8 and 10, just depends on what I got going on. But I'm developing like content, strategies, figuring out what we're going to do sales wise. Then it becomes more of like a business day. But my first block in the morning is really like lights out, man. It's been like that for a really long time. That I've got a great crew of guys that push from all walks of life. So that's like my country club, man. That's my camaraderie. That's my competition. 4 a.m. is my practice time. My meets or my show or shows are like my game days. I still have a locker room. I still have accountability. I still got all that, which is interesting. So I still have a team atmosphere, which a lot don't. And so I really that's a heavy piece, I think, of the success. But I think being locked in on that personal development at the same time as I'm being locked in on like my overall health, it's really been a combination that's been winning for me for a long time because I'm sharpening my mind, I'm sharpening my body, I'm building my confidence, I'm working on things that I want to get better at. So then I can have a better opportunity in the workforce and the business and add value to people's lives. Like if I don't do the stuff I do this morning, I'm not as locked in when I get here at 8 to be on with you. You know what I
Mhm,
mean? So it's like
mhm.
I think that also with the nutrition and being super lights out with that, keeping your insulin stable, like your mind is clear. I don't have a bunch of brain fog. I do like to drink and hang out and do some stuff on the weekends, but I compartmentalize that and to try to get ready for my week. And so I don't know, my early morning routine, man, it's hard for people to get down with, but it's a separator. I know it's a separator. I know it's the difference maker. I know that people that want my spot are gonna have to be willing to do it, and a lot of them just aren't.
Yeah, again, it's like another math equation you figured out, right?
It's a math equation that's very difficult for people. It's easy in theory, but extremely difficult to execute for some reason. I know why, because the things that pull you, oh, well, I could have went out and had drinks on Monday night because it was this or that, or I could have went to happy hour on this, or I just think it's so important, but it's so important because I know what it yields. It's
Yeah,
almost like you know what you get. So I know if I apply this variable, I'm going to get this at some point. And that, which is Arnold used to say, like during his diet phases, like nothing tastes as good as being the fucking champion. That's it. Nothing tastes better. That pie, that's whatever, that shit that you want to eat, all he's thinking about is winning. And nothing tastes as good as winning. And I think to some degree, I feel that same way. Like I've slipped up from time to time, but the overall strategy has stayed intact for like at least a decade.
yeah, that's beautiful. I think the difference, the separator as well, to use your term, is you're willing, and I'll say you and people like you and your team and those and someone like Arnold as well. The difference is you're willing to wait for that seed to bear fruit, whereas others will just give up on it and walk because it's not, it did, oh, I didn't get in shape tomorrow. You know what I mean? So why am I going to keep doing it? This doesn't work. Corey's insane. I'm not getting up at 4 o'clock. This doesn't work. Whereas you've been willing and your crew have been willing just to like keep hammering, keep doing it because you trust the process and you've seen it before. You've seen it show up manifest in other ways in your life. So you just
I
know,
think
okay, guys, go
that
ahead.
right there is part of it too, Brad, is that I've seen it work. So if I've seen it work at the and this hasn't, you have to like be diligent enough to let it work, right? And because it has worked, I know it will work. Now it might have to change, you might have, but like I know my opportunity for to get what I want is possible if I keep dedicated to it. So it's like you're really choosing, do I want this possibly to happen or do I not? I don't know if people realize, but that's what they're really choosing. The discipline that you display, the habits that you keep, you're saying whether you want things to happen or not. I'm telling you by my actions, not by me talking, and that I'm forcing my life to be different. It's just a fact. And it just continued to work. So it's like I'm not guaranteed in any time frame. I'm not entitled to any certain amount of money or lifestyle, but I'm forcing it to give me a better chance by the mentality and the habits. And what people need to understand is they're choosing that. I mean, they're choosing it. You stay in bed, you hit the snooze, you decide not to do this or do that. You're choosing to be one day further away, not one day closer. That's it. It's really that simple. People try to make it more difficult than that, but it's really not, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think life in itself, we complicate as humans so much, but it really is just like, drink water, exercise, be kind to people, love those that you love, do these simple things, and you will more than likely set yourself up for success. But we get so caught up in that periphery stuff, or I remember in a previous life, a person that I was involved with would spend like 3 hours watching, I don't know, some show on TV, and I just sat there, I'm like, how, like, that's a choice. And I'm, again, I don't want to judge, but I'm just like, that is like you just said, like, you're just making a very loud choice, so that's more important than whatever else.
It's
Anyway, I
glaring.
could,
I think it's
yeah,
glaring that stuff's happening to me. And like, but once again, these mentalities in life and understand they're really not for everybody. So that's the other thing. Like when I would sit down with some people and I'd have like a million goals and they would have zero or one, but they'd be fine with that. And that's okay too. So it's like, that it's just not really meant for everybody. So I really had to understand that because then you can come on like a total dick a lot. And I never really want to be that way. I just want to be like the guy that people know around town that if they really are trying to like get better, they can find the content or maybe they can get like that I'm here. But like the amount, like I would speak to a whole football team and one person would reach out after, or I'd speak to a whole baseball team and there's a small percentage of people that are like, I want to fucking sign up for that. I want to know what's that guy doing, and it's once again, that's why there's the small percentage I think that make a million or have their own business. It's a small percentage of people because it's very difficult and you got to have all those things in line. A lot of people think the personal development stuff's hokey, man, but I wasn't taught anything. My traditional school didn't teach it. I wasn't interested in any of that stuff. Like I wanted to learn, like, how can I be different? How can I make a difference? How can I have a better financial IQ? How do I need to operate? Like just was not taught those things. So I had to go learn them. And that was I need to know what's an asset, what's a liability. Like, I taught myself all these things from just wanting to learn. And so people need to never really quit learning too. I think that's the other thing is like I read a bazillion books since I got out of high school. If you would have told me that in high school, I'd have laughed at you.
yeah,
But it's things I want to learn, so I'm really passionate about it.
yeah. You're like engaged, like you're seeking it out as opposed to something being forced upon you that just doesn't interest you at all, for sure.
Always seeking it
Yeah.
out constantly.
Again, I want to respect your time, man. I do want to just shed some light quickly on your companies, especially I think the most accessible one for my listeners would be a brand like Max Effort, maxeffortmuscle.com, I believe is the website. Briefly describe what that is, why it's important to you. And as someone personally who participates in taking supplements, I'm always intrigued as to why certain supplement companies exist and why should a listener on my podcast go and purchase a Max Effort product as opposed to product X.
Yeah, well, the cool thing about Max Effort is that it's a culmination of all of these years of application, right? At the end of the day, like I'll never say I'm like some science guy because I'm not. but the thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of transformations at this point in my career are pretty substantial. And a lot of this max effort was based on there's so many people following the workouts and the protocols I've created from my app at Cory G Fitness that once I sold out of my original supplement business, there was a need to create another one for my community, basically. And then Dustin's community too. And so, like Max Effort, we have created supplements for the direct result of like the things that we put together in the gym for recovery, for performance. A lot of athletes that pay attention to us. So, like, we literally created supplements from athletes to athletes. Like, we're athletes, we're still pushing. We've created the things we exactly need for whether it's transformations, whether it's recovery. And we've just proved it with years and years of stuff inside the gym. And a lot of them are just evolved from first company to second company and changing the taste and changing some of the profiles with the science team at the manufacturer. But you just know, like, when you take the stuff that we provide, that it's for a reason, usually based around some type of protocol that's going to get you the results that you're after. I mean, at the end of the day, we wouldn't be successful if we didn't get what people were after, and they want to change, they want to feel good, they want to perform good. That's what we do. So these are formulas that over time have proven to make all of those things true. And you're going to get down to earth customer service, fun brand, cool brand. I'm fortunate, man. It's got the it factor. I know it does. It does because the kids are wearing the gear in high school, all the way up to big time strength coaches telling us they love it. Like, the people that are messing with max effort are just not on accident. So all the things are leaning towards that. This brand will be as big as we, want to be, pretty much. If we just keep executing like we are. It's pretty amazing. So it's a true community, man. Like, people, they feel different when they wear it. It's funny because one of the really good wrestlers that comes here, his name's Colin Moore. He's in the USA, on the USA team. He said, and he was from Ohio State. He's like, when I walk down through Ohio State and I see somebody wearing a max effort shirt, I automatically think they're tough. And I was like, fuck yeah. It's because they know. It's like, I would say we're the band that people that know about us, like, feel good that they know about us. And that it's like, we're not mainstream yet, nor maybe we ever be. But it really doesn't matter to me. I just know that the people that fuck with us are about it.
Yeah, you're
And
like that. You're like that cool underground band that like you see on a Tuesday night in a CD bar, but they just like blow you away with how good they are.
I feel like that's who we are. And I'm cool with that because I'm definitely not for everybody. I'm for anybody, but I'm not for everybody. And I think max effort's the same way.
I love it. Well, I'll encourage all my listeners to if it's within your wheelhouse and you're looking to improve your body, then definitely check out Max Effort Muscle. And I just want to say, Cory, as we wrap up, you inspire me, dude. I reached out to you, I don't know how long ago, with a DM, and your character showed up then and you responded. You inspire me with your posts. You inspire me with how you show up for the community. And when I say community, I mean all those that engage with you, through purchasing your products, but also just, me, just a random guy on social media. Like, you show up for everyone, and that if you don't get that sort of feedback, I want to give that to you now, that we appreciate you. I appreciate you. The messages that you send out, they land with us, and they create real positive impact and positive change. So whatever I can do to fly your flag and your team's flag moving forward, I'd be more than happy to do it. And I'll be more than happy to obviously share this out and share your brand and brands, because I believe that the people behind it are just real people, and they're authentic. And businesses like that, companies like that, I think are the ones that are gonna, like you said earlier, be around for the long game. So kudos to what you've created, and I look forward to what you're gonna create in the future, because I truly believe how you show up is as a good person, and good things happen to good people.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I think the authenticity is the cheat code. I think every time I've leaned into who I really am, as quirky as I am, and as a mix of these worlds, but at the end of the day, like, that's when it's always resonated the best. I think the feedback I get when I only go to one trade show a year, we got the Arnold Classic here, but the feedback I get from the daily fires and the podcasts and doing things like this, like, is always like, yo, man, that shit matters and it's a difference. And That's good to hear because you're just creating this stuff sometimes. And if you don't interface with people, right, you don't really know. And I do get the message like, yo, gee, that one hit, and that like reminds me to be consistent with stuff and that it is not going on deaf ears and that it does make a difference in someone's day. It's therapeutic for me on top of it, right? Because I'm getting these things out of my brain. But, all of that means a lot to me and it just keeps me motivated, and that's the oxygen to keep it rolling. So I appreciate you having me on today, and just stay in touch, and anything I can do in the future to help you, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely. Before I let you go officially, if people want to reach out, they do want to engage, whether it be the app and chat with your mom, which sounds amazing, by the way, or peep some product from Max Effort. This is your red carpet rollout.
Yeah, the easiest thing is I'm at Cory G Fitness, CORYG Fitness on all platforms. Max Effort Muscle, spelled out exactly how it is on all platforms. Like Brad said, you can easily just DM and hit us up, have questions, we'll answer, we'll get back to you, and we'll just keep it moving. And we've built literally the entire community pretty much one DM and workout at a time. So we'll just keep it rolling. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
Amazing, man. Thank you so much for your time, dude. And thank you guys for tuning in. If it wasn't for you, it'd just be Corey and I chatting, but that would be pretty cool as well. But at least you guys got the advantage of diving into how Corey thinks. Yeah, that's Corey. This is Brad. You guys know what to do until next time. Be good and do good. That's it, man. We did it. Well done.
All right, see you, Brad. Thank you.
Thanks, bro. Have a great day.
Hey, you